A woman I had never met sat down next to me at the park, flirted with me for 10 minutes, and then stood back and watched her husband break my nose for it. So I was eating lunch on a bench at Pinewood Park, the way I did most Saturdays, when a woman sat down close enough that our shoulders almost touched. She was friendly in a way that did not match two strangers sharing a bench. "You come here a lot," Tessa said. "I have seen you." I had never seen her in my life. She asked about my book, my job, whether I was single, and the whole time her eyes kept flicking to a spot over my shoulder. I should have turned around sooner. When I finally did, there was a man across the grass by the water fountain, big through the shoulders, watching us the way you watch a pot about to boil. "Is that your husband?" I asked. She put her hand on my arm and leaned in closer, which was the answer. "Do not worry about him," she said. That was the moment I understood I was not a person to her. I was a prop, standing to leave because nothing good was coming. I did not even get my bag on my shoulder. Brett crossed that grass faster than a man his size should move, and his fist landed before I knew what was happening. I went down on the gravel path. He hit me twice more while I was down, and then he was finished. By the time I got my eyes open, Tessa was already walking off with him, her arm looped through his, her head on his shoulder, like a woman who had just been rescued from something. Neither of them looked back. My nose was broken. A jogger helped me up, and an older man with a small dog came over fast, his hands shaking. "I saw the whole thing," he said. "That is Brett, and the woman is Tessa. You are not the first. Her husband is insane and she likes to make him jealous. She finds a man, she works him for a few minutes, and Brett does the rest. There was a guy in the spring, and another one before that. I have watched her run it 3 times from this exact bench. Everybody I told said the same thing. Let it go. A year of fighting would get me nothing but more bruises." I almost listened. Then I pictured the way Tessa had walked off with her head on his shoulder, like the broken nose on the path behind her was a gift she had handed her marriage. So I did not let it go. The old man's name was Earl, and he was glad to say exactly what he saw, and so was the jogger. I went to the police that same afternoon, and I made it clear I meant to follow it all the way, with no quiet handshake in a parking lot. That was when Tessa came looking for me. She was waiting by my bench the next Saturday, alone this time, with a soft voice and a story already built. "I think there has been a huge misunderstanding," she said. "Brett gets protective. He saw a strange man getting close to his wife and he reacted. You and I both know you were enjoying the attention. Your hand went on my arm," I said. "You sat down next to me. I never went near you. And you did not move it, did you?" She smiled like she had scored a point. "Look, I do not want anybody to get in trouble. Brett has a record from before, and if this goes forward, it could be very bad for him. And for what? A bruise that is already healing. Be the bigger man. Drop it." There it was, the whole thing. She had aimed her husband at me like a thrown rock, and now she wanted me to apologize to the rock. Brett tried his own version a few days later, catching me in the parking lot, not swinging this time, just standing close and talking low. "You drop this," he said, "or my wife tells them you put your hands on her first. Her word and mine against yours. Think about how that goes." He truly believed she would stand behind him. Brett thought he was the one protecting the marriage. He thought he was the man, and she was the prize, with no idea he was the one being used. So I gave him the only thing that could actually reach either of them, the truth he had never once questioned. "Brett," I said. She walked up to me. I'd never seen her before in my life. She sat down, she put her hand on my arm, and the whole time she kept checking over her shoulder to make sure you were watching. "You did not catch a man chasing your wife. What you did was a trick she set up, the same one she ran in the spring, and again before that. Ask Earl from the park about the last 2 men she pointed you at. You are not her bodyguard. You are her bait." For a second he wanted to swing again, and for a second I thought he would, but he did not. His fist came up about halfway, and then just stopped, like the wire connecting his brain to his arm got cut. Something behind his eyes shifted, not to calm, not to peace, but to something emptier than both. He was not looking at me anymore. He was looking through me, at something only he could see, and whatever it was worse than anything I could have said. He stood like that for maybe 10 seconds, but it felt like a full minute. Then he turned around, walked to his truck, got in, and drove away. He did not peel out. He did not slam the door. He just left, and the quiet he left behind was heavier than the shouting had been. I stood in that parking lot with my hand still shaking and thought, okay, maybe that was the worst of it. I actually believed that for about 2 days. The first thing I did was call Earl. I needed to know he was still with me, because without witnesses, this whole thing was just my word against theirs. Earl picked up on the second ring and sounded exactly the way he always did, steady and a little tired. "I told you I would be there and I meant it," Earl said. "I have watched that woman operate from my bench for too long to sit quiet about it now. That was good. That was solid ground." But then Earl said something that made the ground feel a lot less solid. "That boy from the spring," he said. "He moved, left town, would not even talk about it when I asked. She got to him somehow. A man got his face beaten in by Brett, same as me, and instead of fighting it, he packed up and left. Not just dropped the charges, left town." Earl did not know the details, just that the man stopped coming to the park, stopped answering calls, and then one day a moving truck showed up at his place. "I tried once more after he left," Earl said. "Called him from a number he would not know. He picked up, I said my name, and he said please do not call me again. That was it. That was all he had left to say about it. I thanked Earl and told him to be careful. He laughed a little at that, the dry kind. "I am 73 years old with a bad knee and a dog that weighs 11 pounds, he said. "If she thinks I'm scared of her, she has not met enough old men." Next I called Sawyer. He was the jogger who had helped me up off the gravel that day, the one who saw everything from the trail. Sawyer did not hesitate. "I saw the whole thing," he said. "He came at you like a train. I will say that anywhere they need me to say it." 2 witnesses, both willing, both clear on what they saw. Earl had the history, and Sawyer had the moment. Between the 2 of them, the story Tessa and Brett were trying to sell would not hold up. Then Robin called. Robin is one of my closest friends, and when she called me that evening, her voice sounded off. Not upset exactly, but careful, like she was choosing every word before she said it. "Some woman reached out to me today," Robin said. "Said she was worried about you. Said you have been following her and her husband around and making threats. She sounded really scared. She gave me her name, Tessa." I told Robin everything. I started from the bench and went all the way through. The attack, the witnesses, the police report, Tessa showing up alone, Brett's threat in the parking lot, all of it. When I finished, she was quiet for a few seconds. "I believe you," she said, "but I need to tell you something." She sounded convincing. She had the shaky voice thing going, and she knew details about you. She knew where you eat lunch, she knew about the park, she knew my name somehow. If I did not know you the way I know you, I might have believed her. That sat in my gut like a rock. "If she is calling people she does not even know," Robin said quietly, "what is she telling people she does?" I did not have an answer for that, but I understood what was happening now. Tessa was not just trying to get the charges dropped. She was building a whole other version of the story where I was the dangerous one, where Brett was the protector and she was the victim. And she was not doing it in court where I could fight it. She was doing it in the spaces around my life, the places I could not watch, with people I cared about, one phone call at a time. This was not new for her. The man from the spring did not leave town because Brett scared him. He left because Tessa made his life unlivable from the outside in. She had done this before, and she had won every single time. Not by being stronger, but by being patient and convincing and willing to lie to anyone about anything. And now, she was doing it to me. The difference was, I knew it was coming, and I was not going to pack a moving truck. 2 days later, Topaz called. Topaz and I had been working out at the same gym for about 3 years. She got right to it. No small talk. Some woman called me, Topaz said. Said her name was Tessa. Said you grabbed her at the park and her husband had to pull you off. I told her that did not sound like you, but she had details. She knew your name, where you work out, your Saturday routine. It was not the lie that got me. I was ready for the lie. It was the details. She knew where I worked out. She knew my Saturday routine. That meant she had been watching me not just that day on the bench, but before it and after it. She had studied me the way someone studies a target. Topaz believed me when I explained. She said the story the woman told did not match the person she knew, but she also said something that stuck. She was good, Topaz said. Like, she had this whole thing down. The worried voice, the little pauses like she was trying not to cry. If I did not know you personally, I would have at least had questions. Both Robin and Topaz sent me screenshots. 2 sets of messages, 2 different people, the same flipped story, full of details Tessa should not have known about my life. The next morning I went straight to the officer handling my case and laid everything on the desk. The officer looked through the messages carefully, made notes, then leaned back. She is telling people a story. That is not illegal. But if she contacts you directly or tries to interfere with witnesses, that changes things. The line felt thin. Tessa was smart enough to stay on the legal side of it while doing damage on the other side. She was going after the soft targets, the people who knew me, but did not know the situation, and getting to them before I could. I left the station feeling like I had done the right thing, but also like the right thing was not enough. So I called Earl to warn him that Tessa might try to work on him. He let out that dry laugh. She already did, Earl said. Came by the bench yesterday with a coffee and a smile. Told me Brett feels terrible and they are getting counseling. Asked if I really wanted to drag a healing family through court. What did you say? I asked. I told her I saw what I saw, Earl said. And she could save her coffee for someone who did not watch her husband beat a man on the ground. Earl held. But I could feel something tightening around this whole thing. Then the real problem came in the form of a phone call from Sawyer. I could hear it in his voice before he said a single word. The easy confidence from our last call had a crack in it. Listen, man, Sawyer said. Some guy showed up at the trail where I run. Big dude. Did not say anything threatening exactly. Just asked if I was the one who helped you up that day, and said he hoped I would think carefully about getting involved in something that was not my business. Brett had found Sawyer. Tessa was handling the social side, calling my friends, building her fake story one conversation at a time. And Brett was handling the physical side, showing up where my witnesses ran, standing close, saying just enough without crossing into a direct threat. Tessa pointed and Brett walked. That was how it had always worked. The only new part was that now she was pointing him at witnesses. Sawyer, I get it if you want to walk away from this, I said. Nobody would blame you. Sawyer went quiet. The silence went on long enough that I started to think I had my answer. Then he spoke. No, Sawyer said. He scared me, and I am not going to pretend he did not. But I saw what happened to you. And if I walk away now, the next guy gets it worse. I am in. 2 witnesses, both still standing. Earl with his bad knee and his 11-pound dog, and Sawyer with the memory of a big man on his running trail, both of them choosing to stay. But I was not fooling myself. Every move Tessa and Brett made was getting bolder and getting closer to the people holding my case together. That night I sat down with a notebook and wrote everything out. Every contact, every message, every conversation, laid out with dates and times and names. I printed every screenshot. When I was done, I had 6 pages of notes that told a very clear story, not mine but Tessa's. The story of a woman who had spent weeks reaching into every corner of my life and pulling threads. The next morning I took it all to the station. I watched the officer's face change as I walked through each piece, a small tightening around the eyes, a slight forward lean, the shift from listening to paying attention. When I finished, the tone was different from every conversation we had ever had. Witness intimidation is a different conversation, the officer said. I am going to want to talk to your jogger and the older gentleman. That was the moment it stopped feeling like I was pushing a boulder uphill by myself. I gave over the numbers and left feeling something I had not felt since the day I first sat on that bench with my lunch and my book. I felt like I was ahead of her. That feeling lasted until about 7 that evening, when Doug knocked on my front door. Doug is the kind of guy who knows everybody in the neighborhood and picks no sides. He hears things because people talk in front of him like he is furniture. He looked at me with something close to worry. I am not here to tell you what to do, Doug said. But Brett has been telling people at the bar that you came onto Tessa and he barely touched you. He is also saying you are obsessed with his wife and stalking them. And people are buying it because Brett sells it like he believes it. The thing is, he said, I think he does believe it. She has him wrapped so tight he cannot see straight. I asked the question that had been sitting in the back of my mind since this whole thing started. Doug, did Brett ever mention any other men? Anyone else this happened with before me? Doug frowned, the real kind. What other men? So I told him. Tessa had run the same thing at least 3 times. There was a man in the spring and another one before that. Earl had watched it happen from the same bench each time. Doug went quiet, the kind of quiet where something has just shifted in the way a person sees the world, and they need a second to catch up to the new picture. That changes things, Doug said slowly. Brett never mentioned anyone else. He told me you were the first and only time he ever lost his temper. There it was. Tessa did not just set up the attacks. She cleaned up after them. Every single time she made sure Brett never found out there had been a time before, because the pattern was the one thing that would make him see her clearly. She scrubbed the history so Brett could keep being her weapon without ever realizing he was loaded and aimed by the same hand every time. I am not getting in the middle of this, Doug said, but I am not going to let Brett keep lying to my face either. If someone asks me what I heard, I will tell them what I heard. He left the way he came, hands in his pockets, already looking around the street. He was still Doug, still not on anyone's team, but he had handed me something that mattered, and I think he knew it. 3 days later, the officer called, voice sharper now, like someone who had stopped evaluating and started acting. We want to move forward. Your witnesses have both given their statements. Brett's prior record is on file, and the witness intimidation angle has given us something we did not have before. Then, whoever is advising these 2 to keep pushing is giving them the worst advice possible. Every move they make is making this worse for them. There was no advisor. There was just Tessa. She had a playbook that worked every single time because every other man had looked at the cost of fighting and decided it was not worth it. She had never met someone who pushed back, and because she had no other move, she kept pushing harder. Every call, every visit, every lie was not strength. It was a sign that she had no idea what to do when the old playbook stopped working. She was not adapting. She was repeating. And every repetition was another piece of evidence on the officer's desk. Brett was formally charged with assault. His prior record was not some old bar fight. It was a confrontation at a restaurant 2 years ago where Brett had claimed a man was harassing Tessa. The charges were dropped because the man refused to cooperate. The same pattern, the same setup, the same ending. It was documented now, all of it, and there was no version of the story Tessa could tell that would make it disappear. About a week after the charges went through, I went to the park on a Saturday the way I always did, and Brett was there. Not in the parking lot, not across the grass by the fountain. He was sitting on the bench, my bench. He looked like he had not slept in days. His eyes were red and his clothes were wrinkled, and he was sitting with his hands between his knees like a man who had run out of places to go. He did not stand up when I walked over. He just looked up at me, and whatever was in his face was not anger. It was something broken. I asked her about the guy from the spring, Brett said. She said she had no idea what I was talking about. So I called around, found out his name from a neighbor who remembered the ambulance, called him. He picked up, and the second I said Tessa's name, he hung up. Did not say a word, just hung up. His voice cracked and he looked down at his hands. Then I asked her about the one before that, and she laughed. She said I was letting you get in my head. He was not there to threaten me. He was there because the one thing he had built his whole identity around, being the man who protects his wife, had collapsed underneath him, and there was nothing left to stand on. She told me they flirted with her, Brett said. Every single time she said they started it, and she was scared and I needed to handle it. And I believed her because why would my wife lie about that? I did not feel sorry for him. I want to be honest about that. Brett broke my nose. Brett threatened me in a parking lot. Brett showed up on Sawyer's running trail and tried to scare him into silence. Whatever Tessa did to set the table, Brett was the one who swung. So I said the hardest thing I have said in this entire mess. You still hit me, Brett, I said. You hit me and 2 other men that I know about, and you would have kept doing it. Whatever she did to set it up, your fists were yours. Brett nodded slowly. He did not argue. He did not make excuses. He just sat there and took it, which was the first honest thing I had ever seen him do. Then he told me what happened when he confronted Tessa with everything. She did not cry, Brett said. She did not apologize. She said if I did not shut up and fix this, she would tell the police I forced her into all of it, that I made her lure those men so I could hurt them. She said she would say she was afraid of me and that I controlled the whole thing. He looked at me and his eyes were hollow, like someone had scooped out whatever used to be behind them. She was going to let me take all of it. Every single time, I was the one who was supposed to carry it, and she was going to walk away clean. Brett did not ask me to forgive him. He told me he was not going to fight the charges. He was going to tell the truth about every incident, including the ones I did not know about. There were 5, Brett said quietly. Not 3, 5. I sat with that number for a long time after he left. 5 men who walked into a park on a normal day and left bleeding because a woman needed to feel wanted badly enough to break strangers. Brett pleaded guilty. His statement included a full account of every incident and Tessa's role in setting each one up. Tessa was investigated separately, and I did not know yet what would come of that, but I knew she could not run the game anymore because every witness, every victim Brett named, every piece of the pattern was on record now. Earl found me at the bench the following Saturday. He sat down with his small dog and said nothing for a while. Then he spoke. You are the first one who did not walk away, he said. I still eat lunch on that bench most Saturdays. The nose healed a little crooked.